This is Short Hammer. It is the 20th of June, 2021, and this is Trading Zones. So, this past week was just really interesting, and the past few weeks have been interesting. Um, One of the best things I can say is there is nothing wrong with if the market is getting a little bit too wild for you with all these swings to just sit out. Cash is a position. So be careful with entries and exits, and that you do have your stop losses in place and also your profit takes, because sometimes within a matter of moments, both can be hit, especially in the futures. So looking at the MNNQ, one of the things that I'm going to watch for, because tech has been a little bit stronger than the rest of the market, I'll say, right? Tech has had a little bit more upward movement than the rest than most of the market. Um, so for me, I have this zone here, um, right around 14,027, lower part 14,051, upper part of the zone. I want to see if that holds. If that doesn't hold, I watch for a fall to 13,955 by 13,940. Um, this area should hold, right? It would be great if we sort of had a slight gap up here above this area um, on the Sunday open. We'll see if that happens, just because look at these previous highs. This would seem to be an area where you see this candle structure here to the left from as early as the 14th of April, all the way through the 29th of April. You saw activity in that area. Yes, we had this pullback in between, but you saw activity in this area here. And so watching this pullback into this area and this pop above, it would be nice to see the buyer step in and push us back above the 14,050s. We'll see how that plays out. But just wait for your setups. On this break of the high here, look at this push above and break above this structure here, right? You would expect like a little pullback into this structure, then a buyback up. Sort of got a fake out here and a sell down on the 16th, right? Then we got a little bit of basing here and a push back up. And we broke the previous high wave. And the thought would be, hey, we're off to the races, because what's strong usually gets stronger. Instead, what do we see? This drop here. And we slightly have to address sort of what's going on in the market. Well, on Wednesday, I believe it was, the Fed had their minutes. And what they were saying was that inflation is growing at a faster rate than expected. And there was a whole bunch of hawkish comments that came out from individuals that worked worked for the Fed. And so, everyone was thinking that, oh, they're going to have to taper, the amount of spending and what's going on, and there's going to be an adjustment to the interest rates slowly, because everyone's thinking they're going to do something to combat inflation. But then, other things happen during the week that give you a different perspective, right? That swings the narrative in the market to say, hey, maybe they are going to wean us off the easy federal or government money, and off of the manipulated interest rates. Things are lower than they should be. Like, maybe they're going to wean us off of that. And then news comes out, economic news comes out, and other comments, and it gives you the exact counter view to that narrative, which takes the market in a totally different direction, but puts the pressure on the financials. So it's a lot of divergence in the market right now. That's really what I want to say. And some of the things that used to be correlated, where you get a hint from one sector or another to let you know what something else may do. Right now, those correlations really are slightly at odds, because the news is so variable, and the news seems to be constantly changing, and the narrative seems to also be changing. So it's a lot going on in the market. And just be careful. Just be careful. That's all I have to say. So these are the levels that I'm watching. We'll see what next week looks like. But if we don't get back above these 14026 by 14050 levels right here, we don't get back above this, then I'll be watching for a dip into the lower zone here, 13955 by 13940. You see this little hitch here, 13985, right? By 139, almost the low of this, 13940, 13935 area. We'll see if we dip there, or we could just pop back up, right? But if we pop back up, we need to hop over this area here, this 14097 ish. We need to get back through that area and then get a little bit of altitude, and we need to cruise. So we'll see how that plays out next week on the MNQs. Let me move over to the rest real quick. Oh man. RTY. And so the RTY, as reflective of small caps and financials, one of the main things it's made up of is selling, as are the financials, right? Industrials, just so many different sectors that are under pressure right now. And um, what can we look for? So we're below the 2247 area, and next up is the 2211.70s or 2211s. We'll see if we catch a bid there, right? We may dip all the way down to 21.99. I wouldn't say that's impossible, but between 21.99 and 22.11s, I would look for buyers to begin to step in. It depends on what the news is that's coming out from the Fed, and just the commentary around that, and also the commentary from the president. We'll see what's being discussed, and how they're talking about is going to be important, right? Because how you frame that, how you frame the conversation around inflation, and how you frame the conversation around what the Fed is going to do as far as their balance sheet, is really important when you look at monetary policy. So we really want to see what they say over the next few weeks to see if some of the pressure is alleviated on the financials, which would give us a rise back to the top. If you remember, what we've discussed previously is that as long as financials remain strong, the market's fine, right? And I think one of the things that you're seeing is that tech was a little bit stronger than expected. Meanwhile, financials was weaker, right? And so because financials was weaker, um, there is I'll say not a dichotomy, but there's a juxtaposition between the Qs and what the Qs are doing, that are near all-time highs, and the Rust, and the Rust sort of having this steep drop. So we'll see how this works out. But I'm going to watch to see if we get a hold here around the 2211 by 21.99 to see if the buyers do step in. If they do not, I'll wait for a day where we see a slight reversal, and I'll take a slight ride back up on that. Probably not in the Rust itself, but I'll be looking for probably Goldman Sachs, something like that I'll do like, looking for an entry there. But this sell is not good news. We have to see if how the narrative around this is discussed. Because if we continue to sell, then the entire market is going to be under massive pressure if the financials don't pick up, or tech is going to really have to shoulder the burden. Like it's going to be one of those two things that's going to happen. Either the financials are going to have to taper off a little bit, or tech is going to really have to outperform to shoulder this burden. So we'll see how that works out. But that's what I'm sort of watching on the RTY. If we do get back above 2140, 2247, we do want to see a push up here and a pop through the 2270s to get back near the 2290s, if not above. So this is on the 4 hour. We'll see how that plays out. Things do look a little bit negative, a little bit red, as if we may see more downside. But wait to see where we open on Sunday and what the buyers and sellers are telling you. Same thing. and you can see sort of the difference in the look between the MES and the the Rus, which are similar in structure from the Qs. And we're at the 4140s. We want to see if the buyers step in here. If they do not, next up is the 4110s, and I will need to draw zones for this. I just like I trade that mentally because I use a lot of candle structure and pivots. Like actually, the main thing I use other than these lines are pivots. So I look at these lines on the higher time frame to get my levels, right? The higher time frame levels, and off of those higher time frame levels that I have here, I'm digging into the pivots and using those pivots, excuse me, those pivots in the EMA's intraday to get my entries and exits, right? Looking at the candle structure, the reversal candles, and so I'll play that, looking for higher lows, higher highs on reversals, or um, just those are some of the things that I'll look for. Whether it's the reversals there or reversals on the way up, and I think it's coming back down. I wait for the triggers. That's sort of what I look for on a daily basis, and also continuation. But I use these lines to sort of figure out what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for something to go from 4142 to 4168, or the reverse, right? So we definitely want to see buyers step in here. If not here at the 4142s and at 4110s, don't try to guess where the buyers will step in if you're bullish. And um, don't try to guess where the sellers will lose interest if you're bearish. Wait for your setup and your triggers. Have your stops in mind of where you're going to stop mentally, or you could put it in, into your trading platform, and have an area where you're either going to scale out or take profits. Just hanging in the market just doesn't pay, right? Because, for example, let's say you like this, you were right about this area being an area of reversal, and you got in on the 17th, right? Or even the 16th, you got in here, and you didn't exit on this drop because it didn't make a lower low, as in this candle, which was down around 4180s, and this one is a little bit higher than that, the 4185-ish area. So you didn't exit on that, and it gave you this green here, this push up into the 4200s, and you didn't exit because you thought you were going to see a breakthrough up here, and instead of that, you got this candle here, right? You're in a little bit too long. You got a reaction to your area in a pop up. You should be scaling out or taking profits here and have your stops in. So this is something that I'll say maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe it was 3 weeks ago, that would catch me, is putting on a trade, getting a little bit nonchalant and sort of multitasking, doing other things, and then coming back to it and realizing that I was a little bit too nonchalant. It blew against me a little bit, and I didn't have the proper stops in, even though sometimes I use bracket orders and things of that nature. And I know I'm getting off the topic, so I'll focus on this. But watch these levels, and we'll see sort of where the buyers step in. Once the buyers step in, I'm looking for a pullback into the level above that, or candle structure above that. Like anywhere around this 4150s isn't bad. We'll see 4153ish. We'll see what happens. But looking for a pullback. But what you want to see on any pullback is higher lows and higher highs, and you want to see that the buyers have stepped in, and that they're pushing us up. We'll see. But cash is a position. No rush to race in and catch a falling knife. Wait for the market to show you that it's kind of made a decision that the selling is over. That's just my opinion. Peeking at Amazon. Now, Amazon's one of the strongest stocks in the market, and um, not surprisingly, we've seen a move up from these levels that we mentioned, right? So where are we right now? We're at 3480s, and so we're above our 3458 level, but below our 3513s level. So what would we do? If you look to the left here, from the like give you the specific dates. This is on a 4-hour chart, the 28th of April on through the 3rd of Mayish, could be the second, right? So just look at this little pocket here. I would look at this pocket here, and You see this by the 3450s, by this pocket here, top of it 3480s. So right in this little pocket is a potential demand zone, right? In my opinion. And so if we hold above the 3450s, we have an opportunity to not just push the 3513s and 3552s, but to potentially push back through the all-time highs, right? Um, and so we have to see if, based on the turbulence in the market right now and the divergence that you're seeing in the market right now, if there are enough strong buyers that believe and want to push based on their time horizon, push Amazon up. And, with the turbulence in the market, people are going to be looking for stocks that are trending in one direction, primarily up. They're going to be looking for places to put their money. And if Amazon or tech becomes that shelter for them, we could definitely see a strong reaction on some of these tech names, specifically discussing and talking about Amazon. So if we're going to watch these levels, I mentioned them to you earlier. 3550s, 3513s are here, and you kind of want to hold about 3480s by 3450s. We'll see how that plays out on Amazon. And you do want the buyers to step in. Preferably, you want to see a gap up. If we do see a pullback, you don't want the 3450s to break. You'd love the buyers to step in there and to get us back through those 3480s and get us back into the 3500 area and get a squeeze and go. We'll see how that plays out on Amazon. But definitely these levels held up. Let's keep it going. Netflix. So Netflix has been interesting, right? And we've sort of discussed quite a few things about Netflix. But what I'm going to sort of dial in on is Netflix is in no man's land, right? It's like the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. This one's too hot. This one's too cold. This one's right in the middle. And so if I'm looking at Netflix here, um, we really need to see bullishness above the 502, 504 area and a squeeze because it played around in this little channel for a few days and the dip below, since it dipped below post the 10th of May, there's been no true bullish action, in my opinion, on Netflix. We haven't been able to spend to get back above into this channel and push back through the 514s, right? And so that's how I look at this. This is just going sideways. So for me, I would not be in Netflix. For the people that do sell contracts, maybe they're in and they're playing sort of above this 514, until it breaks, sort of playing above that level. Um, Selling premium, but that's, you can do that, right? But for me, I'm going to wait for a strong reaction here, and a break above these 514s would be sort of what I'm looking for as a trigger potentially for upside. So I'm gonna be watching Netflix for the break of that level, and if we do break those 514s, my area of interest that I'll be watching is up here in the 529ish area, and we'll see if that plays out, right? The next supply demand area, and I will try to get these zones done. Just really busy lately, good busy, and I will try to get these zones done. So I'll draw these in for you. Um, but this is just, to me, it's not going anywhere, and until I see a strong reaction, increase in price, increase in volume, I'm pretty much going to stay away. Just my opinion. And you could get into all the fundamentals of it and those types of things, and I feel you, but for me, yeah, not interested. So overextension on NVIDIA, I'm going to pop in these zones. um I would look to see if we get a retrace to this candle structure here, right around this 722 by 709s. I would not be surprised if we do see that. Um, this is really overextended, and there should be a pullback into the 720s or upper 730s. We'll see how that plays out on NVIDIA. But the news around chip companies is hot and heavy, right? Looking at AMD, AMD had some good flow and later in the week. And when I say good flow, meaning options flow, if you're subscribed to BlackBox, um, and you sort of watching the flow, the option flow there, but had good option flow and had good follow through. And so looking at NVIDIA on a pullback, may there be some people that are feeling as if they should grab this on the pullback? There might be, right? But there may be more people that were in at a lower point, and based on this run, they may be ready to take profits. Because how many pullbacks are you going to get on NVIDIA that's been piping hot? Um, Before you see a pullback that dips a little bit lower than expected. So I'll be watching this for profit taking, and just to see what the buyers and sellers are telling you here. And if we do drop lower, the 721 by the 702s would be interesting, right? You can see if that hitch holds. But I personally would kind of wait for NVIDIA to settle down and make a decision and the decision that I'm looking for on NVIDIA, just my view, is where the people that, may sell, because every stock has two types of, in my opinion, two types of traders. The ones that are in for the quick move, and the ones that truly believe in the company and they're truly investors in the company and they're in for the longer term, right? And longer term for them may be 1 month, maybe 3 weeks. They're not day trading this necessarily. They're looking for a bigger move because they believe something about the company, that they believe over a period of time that they'll get a greater return on their investment than if they sort of jumped in and jumped out trying to catch a technical or fundamental reaction to a level or candle structure, right? So they're in for a little bit bigger move. So you want those people to feel as if there's more value to the upside on NVIDIA, and you want them to pile in. The reason is people that get in on, a daily setup, or they have a specific narrative that's multi-day, multi-week in length. They don't tend to jump out on little flare downs, and when there's a little bit of turbulence, a little bit of shaking, they're going to be in through the longer term. And if you could figure out kind of where those buyers are getting in and their mindsets, you can, sometimes find a trade in between the little pockets that they're seeing on their higher time frames and higher time horizon levels, and be able to get a great trade in. Just my opinion. Keep it going. So in review, let's see if we get a little bit of lower low here on NVIDIA and a pullback into these levels, the 721 by the 704s, and see what the buyers say, see if anyone steps in. But this thing has been parabolic, and profit taking is about due. But if we make a higher high, that will sort of crush that narrative, and maybe we'll be just seeing more people become interested and more money flowing into NVIDIA. Let me get Microsoft. Microsoft. So, just Microsoft's been strong, and I think we mentioned on numerous videos how much we really like Microsoft, just based on how they did for their last earnings, and how well so many of the different parts of the company performed in their areas, right? So looking at Microsoft here from the 251 to 254, we saw that. Then we saw a push up here into the 259.73-ish area. Then we had a pullback. And where did we stop? The 254.90s. Buyers stepped in, gave us a push up, made a higher high here, and pushed to 261. And so on this pullback here, even though we didn't catch the 259.70s, we want to see if we catch the 257s and if the buyers step in. And if not, then watch the 254s. There's clear candle structure and clear longer term supply demand lines here. These areas are going to be interesting. So I'm going to be watching Microsoft this upcoming week to see if I can find a nice setup, right? And for me, increasing price, increasing volume are one of the things that I'm going to be looking for on Microsoft. And we'll see where people are putting their money. Keep in mind that some people cannot be out of the market. Some people have to always be in the market, just based on their fiduciary responsibilities, right? And how their funds may be set up. So if I'm looking at Microsoft, is Microsoft a safe place to be? It can be considered that, right? Whereas you've seen these wild swings, Microsoft, even those had drawdowns, there have been buyers, right? And so we want to see if we get a higher high here. So I'm gonna be watching Microsoft. If we sort of drift a little bit lower, I'll wait for it to taper off and wait for the buyers to step in. But Microsoft is one of those stocks that I would watch. If the market goes to where in a handbasket, then maybe this thing sells. But don't guess. Wait to see increase in price and increase in. If the buyers have stepped in on Microsoft. Just my opinion, but definitely watch these levels and watch the structures and the areas I mentioned earlier in this particular stock review. So let me keep it going. Mhm. So Apple, one of the things that we've been harping on Apple is below the 127.40s or below the 127s. We're not too interested. No more bearish than not. Above that, more bullish than not. And what did we see? An explosion above the 127s. And we said if we go above the 127s, let's watch out for the 131.70s, 131s. Where did we go? Directly into the 131s. Not bragging, just saying this was a setup that was there for us, right? That we did discuss numerous times on multiple videos about that 127 area as far as candle structure and as far as the buyers and the sellers and how they view that, right? So um keep an eye on Apple. You kind of do have a trend line here, even though I didn't draw it in. Um, I have so many different charts that I use. I do use TOS and also use TradingView. So it's I would keep an eye out, right, for a buyback above 131 and a potential squeeze into the 134 area. Remember, a lot of places are relaxing the mask mandates and people are able to go into places and feel more comfortable. Um, I expect Apple to have a pretty good quarter. We'll see. I'm not looking at any fundamental information. I'm just thinking clearly about the narratives. People are back out. They should be purchasing more accessories. They should be in the store getting more services done on their phones. And I do expect that when people are in the stores, that at the Genius Bar, they're going to be able to upsell some of those people. I think a significant amount of those people, and we're going to see a quarter that could be a little bit better than expected, just based on the relaxed guidelines around COVID-19 and the pandemic, right? I think because of that, there'll be more people out, more people in stores. There's a lot of pent up, I think, consumer dollars for the types of people that buy iPhones, right? Because the type of people that buy iPhones and type of people that buy Samsung or it's just they're slightly different, right? Because just the phones, or historically it has been. So we'll see if that continues, and the people that are out, they do have a little bit of pent up consumer consumer dollars to spend on Apple devices. We shall see. But like these levels, lower level 127.45, then 124.70s, then 121.93. Upper levels above the 131. Watch out for the 134.20s, then 137.28s. So very interesting. Also, don't hesitate to hop over to a place like BlackBox, and check the flow to see what that's telling you. Um, let's keep it moving. Um, I don't think I have mentioned Facebook yet. And if you look at Facebook, um, it's kind of struggling above this little line here. This line looks so janky, but it's struggling above this little line here, and we see it's kind of topping here. So what you want to see out of this level is a pop back over the 330s and a squeeze. We did mention above the 332.80s and 333 area. Watch for an extension. We did get that, right? Look at that. That push right on up into the 337s. But now we're back pulling back into the 329. So I would watch to see if we hold above these lower wicks here that you see. There's 327.90s. You want to hold above that, right? You want the buyers to step in above that. If we do dip below that, look to see if we see an extension down to 321.70s. So keep an eye on that, because there may be some people that are looking to, exit and, take profits. So there's been a nice move on Facebook. There might be a little bit of profit taking here. And also, um, when you're, you know, I'll say a little bit far out from earnings, people may want to see this lower before they get back in for the earnings ride up, right? Just based on what's been going on with the ad with their advertising side. Also, keep in mind with tech that even though tech is up right currently, right, and tech is strong currently, that Joe Biden did put in a new, I believe, head of the FTC. I could be wrong. I thought I saw that. It came across my news blotter, and that she is not a fan of tech companies. She really doesn't like them, and she's really strong on how she feels about monopolies. So tech may get be put under pressure just based on her views and the things that she may want to push um, during her tenure. And I could be wrong with saying that she's head of the FTC. I could be wrong, but just appointed, and I cannot remember her name right now. But just be careful with tech because those could be headwinds in my opinion. Right, but you want to watch Facebook at these levels and see what we get here, and if we make a higher high, then you could ignore what I just mentioned about Facebook and potentially pulling back lower. But we'll see how that shakes. Intel, I was long this and I was shaken out of my trade. Um, I got long, slightly chasing, but I got long in the 58s. And my expectation, honestly, was a push through the 60/90s into 62s. And it didn't work out, right? It pulled back into the 56 area. Once we broke back below this line, this 56.90 line, I just exited the trade. I have no emotions about it. I'm like, I'm out. It's no longer strong as far as that level, right? So we'll see where this goes, but we're below the 55.70 line. That's a potential demand pocket. We'll see if the buyers step in and validate that. If not, watch out for the 53.50s next up. And if we happen to dip below that, then it's 51.11, then 49.16. If the buyers step up on Intel and pushes back into the 56.90s and we get above that, that does open the 58.85, the 60.90s, then the 62s. We'll see how Intel plays out this week, but just interesting movement there. Let's keep it moving on to CMG, everyone's favorite burrito. Um, so looking at CMG, we're at the 1394 area. We did happen to hold above this 1312, which I think is a really important area. Um, Let me drag this out a little bit because I do think that's important. I really do. And let's see if I can get this to be my friend today. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. Cool. There we go. Um, so if I'm looking at CMG, what I want to see is buying, increase in price, increase in volume. Earnings will be coming up soon. So I would like to see the buyers get us back above the 1421s and for us to kind of be playing around up here in the 1460s and 1510s and 1523s and 1548s. We'll see how that plays out, right? But if we do pull back below the 1394 area and we start to drift, if we don't hold the 1348.80s, then I'll be keeping my eye on this level down here on the 1312s. And if that gives up, all bets are off for me. I really have to see the buyer step in and for there to be an increase in price and increase in volume on CMG. I really like CMG as a company. I love the execution of their C-suite. I love how they're moving and sort of how they really, really have a deep understanding of their customer base. So I do expect this to go back up. Um, but in the same vein, CMG Chipotle can be a little bit stubborn, a little bit moody, right? And when it moves in waves. So going to wait and see if we can see continued buying here and continued increase in price. Not sure if I'll be taking a position here, but I do like these levels. If we can get a push above and a hold and a squeeze to the 1420s and a hold, and then for the bullish pressure to sort of build up behind this. Not sure how overall market weakness will affect CMG, but it's something to keep an eye on right now as we're seeing just so many different equities under pressure. McDonald's, and where is it right now? The bottom of that channel in the 229s. We want to see if the buyers step in and push us back up above 231s for us to get room into the 235s. But if we don't, then look for a dip into the 226.70s on McDonald's. I'll be keeping an eye on it. And below the 226 is 223, then 221. But I'll definitely be watching this to see if we see a buy up off this 229 level. We'll see how that plays out. Right into it. Um, so Tesla, what is Tesla doing? So we're out of the Sophie levels, which is these 500s, all these pinkish lines, right? Let my daughter say fuchsia, but we'll see. Um, what am I looking for? I want to hold above the 616s, and I want increase in price, increase in volume, and I want to push here into the 650s, right? If we get that, that does open up the 700s. If we don't find buyers above the 616s and we begin to drift lower, um, we'll see if we really get any downward movement. This almost looks like we're getting a little bit of sideways consolidation here. Just this little portion here. We'll see how that plays out and if it breaks and resolves to the upside. This is really a good time for Elon to put out some PR to help those Tesla bulls out, right? It's a good time for some PR. Ford and I believe GM have come out with vehicles, statements, and investment articles about how heavily they're investing in electric vehicles, and not sure how that may ultimately affect Tesla, right? But um, it could be interesting because you're talking about some pretty big, long-standing brands that are aggressively entering, the area that you call a sweet spot where you have your moat, and they're coming in aggressively. So that's going to be interesting to watch on Tesla. But just mention the levels. If we do dip back down, I'll be looking to see if the buyers step in. At this level, I'm not interested in jumping in short on Tesla unless we see, a decrease in price and an increase in selling volume, and we're seeing a true drive to the downside. That's what I'll be watching for on Tesla. JPM, as all the others. Let me extend this a little bit. And um, we'll see. This looks like a good area for the buyers to step in within the next dollar or so. And so we'll see if we see any reaction to this level. There's a reaction on the 26th of February, a reaction on the 22nd of February, a reaction on the 21st of April, a reaction on the 23rd of April. So we'll see if we get that reaction. And all those reactions did give us an extension into the 149.30s, right, on JPM. So we'll see how that plays out. I will definitely be watching this to see what we get here. The next line down, if we continue to sell, is the 141.60s. So we'll see what happens with JPM, and just the weakness of financials overall um, really has the market under pressure. Look at Goldman Sachs, right? Through this trend line. That's not great, right? Not great at all. Down at the 348 level. Want to see if the buyers step in. Um, if you're looking at Goldman Sachs, it looks like there's a greater chance of this going lower before it goes higher. But we'll see how that plays out because narratives change very quickly in the current market, right? Be careful. So if we get below the 348s, watch out for the 344.80s and 337s and 330s. If we hold here and the buyers do step in, we do want to see a drive back into the 356 area, then through the 362s. We'll see how that works out. Just really nutty market right now. Financials really nutty right now. There are just a lot of news, a lot of information, a lot of narratives, a lot of people pushing their agendas. So be careful with your trades, right? Because anyone could say something that can take your trade in a totally opposite direction, or just totally snuff out the momentum, whether that's to the upside or to the downside on a ticker that you're trading. So just really be careful. This is not the season that you need to take heavy risk. Just be careful. So looking at the SPY, look at this pullback, right? We talked about the divergence in the market, where just different sectors are just weak while other sectors are strong. So we're right around the 413.40 area. We're actually right above it. Want to see if the buyers step in there, or if we see a dip down to the 403s. But definitely keep an eye out for the 413s, the 412.15s, 409s, 407s, 403s, just to see if the buyers step in at any of those levels and give us a drive back up. Want to see what happens headed into Monday, and just to see where the market is as far as the buying and the selling, right? 416 to the upside, 417, 418.22, then 420.33. I will get these upper lines in. You get a little bit lazy sometimes when those pivots are there for you, just give you your levels. Nothing better than those pivots. But I will definitely get it in to make this easier to view. Um, if you enjoy this video, please don't hesitate to tap the like button. And if you'd like to receive more videos like this, not just from me, but also videos from Elisa, please subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel, Power of Pivots, where you can look forward to not just receiving videos from me, but videos from Elisa as she shows you how she utilizes her Power of Pivots script and formulas to find great pre-market entries, great intraday plays, great post-market plays, great swing plays. Thank you so much for your time. Please remain incredibly safe. Have a wonderful week of trading. And if the market gets a little bit too hectic for you, please don't hesitate to get out and enjoy the summer. Um, Definitely, it's been such a rough time with the pandemic. You got to make sure you're taking care of your mental health and just feeling good about yourself heading into a another season where we should be seeing some serious movements in the market. Um, Thanks again. And also, if you find yourself being shaken out of positions, just left and right with the current turbulence in the market, don't hesitate to either size down, which is always, a good thing to do, size way down and just work on the process and work on the execution and or switch into paper while you sort of get things back on track. That's if you've been having a rough time with this turbulence, right? Um, just cash is a position. Be careful and watch your six.